good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the evening with the 2020-2021 supplemental budget hearing. The public budget hearing for the Forest Grove School District is called to order in accordance with ORS 294.430. This opportunity is for public comment regarding the 2020-2021 supplemental budget in accordance with district policy. Public criticism or complaints about district personnel is not allowed. Kathy Bonson will read any comments received, and we'll allot 5 minutes for those.
And we have not received any yet, but we have a hearing going till 5:35, so I'll keep checking.
Okay, all right.
No, we haven't received any public comments yet, so we just have a couple more seconds and then we can adjourn the hearing.
All right. Okay. This concludes the budget hearing and public testimony regarding the 2020-2021 Forest Grove School District supplemental budget. The budget hearing is adjourned at 5:35 p.m. And now we'll call to order the June 28, 2021 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting at 5:35 p.m. We'll do a roll call of board members present. Mark Everett present. Kate Grandusky.
Here.
Brad Bafaro.
I'm here.
Narce Rodriguez.
I'm here.
And Valerie Ingram.
Here.
Okay, thank you. The school board will hear public comment for unscheduled public appearance received through the designated email address, which is publiccomment@fgsd.k12.or.us and is on the district website. Comments will be read by district staff at the appropriate time on the agenda and will be limited to 3 minutes. This time, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll do introductions of audience and staff, and I'll try and manage this a little better than I have in the past. So let's see, Angela. Is Angela here? Maybe not. Enrique?
Enrique Pignon, IT manager.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, Eileen?
Eileen Flute, business.
Thank you. Osvaldo?
Osvaldo Garcia, Equity, ELL, and Migrant Student Services.
Thank you. We'll go back to Angela. Okay. That might be it. I see Forest Grove School District. I'm not sure.
That's our normal
Okay,
kind of
that's our normal.
video account. Angela will be here to talk a little bit about some more contracts for the summer programs.
In a little later. Okay, got it. Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, moving on to approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move we approve tonight's agenda as written.
I second.
And moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. I'm a yes. Brad? Brad Bethero?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, Kate
Yes.
and Narce
Yes.
and Val.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Let's see, we don't have a student representative report tonight. School's out, and so Miley hopefully is enjoying her summer. No calendar notes, but we have maybe something on correspondence, recognition, and short superintendent report, I believe, unless it's maybe a long one. I don't know.
No, it's fairly short. Just a couple of things. Hopefully everybody's staying cool. What an odd heat dome we've been experiencing here. Wanted to just touch base. I've been trying to give you updates on COVID. Currently, we're now under 50 cases per 100,000, which is really the lowest we've been since early last spring, almost 15 months ago. We're at about 2% positivity rate, so it's probably the best that we've seen in a long period of time. All of our planning is still moving forward to get kids into school 5 days a week, normal times. The state did just release its most current draft of the kind of Ready School Safe Learners framework that we'll be using for the fall. Nothing that's spectacularly different than what we thought was going to be there. So that's kind of where we're at with COVID. We ran some of our summer programs today, and so I wanted to walk you through some of that. We ended up canceling our Summer Skills Academy at Echo Shaw because there is no air at Echo Shaw. But we decided to run some of our other programs because for many of our students, they don't have air conditioning. And this was actually a way for us to provide some cooling centers for that. So we ran our credit recovery at the high school. We ran the Summer Skills Academy at NAMS. At Tom McCall, we had Champions Daycare. We moved any Champions Daycare that we had at Echo Shaw over to Tom McCall, and they ran out of the cafeteria in the east and then the library and some of the other cooler rooms. There are several rooms in east that do have air conditioning, so they were kind of, they brought in lots of fans. They closed the windows or closed the drapes to keep the heat out of the room, and everything all together went pretty well. But I wanted to make sure you knew why some of the districts closed all of their programs. We chose not to because we wanted to provide some cooler spaces for kids. Currently, we have 717 students who have signed up for some kind of K-8 activity. You did some of the contract work at the last board meeting. I wanted to let you know kind of what was emerging from that. Last time I checked, we were over 600 students in credit recovery. So we've got a lot of things going on. And lastly, I would just thank our bus drivers today because they probably had the hardest jobs, which is moving kids in this heat was a real challenge for them. So that was kind of what we had rolling so far in the summer.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Let's see, moving on, we've got the unscheduled public appearance. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments should be submitted through the designated email address and will be read by district staff. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol during in-person board meetings. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel is not allowed at this time. Are there any comments that have been received?
Yes, we have one from Hope Kramer.
Okay.
When we ask an officer to carry a gun in a school, we are asking a lot. Imagine any situation where an officer would need to pull his weapon or potentially shoot someone while at school. Now, in your imaginary setting, look behind the target. What do you see? Walls with students on the other side, a neighborhood, a stadium of parents, all of the things that could be behind the target, and the fact that the target could be a student are horrible things for us to think an officer would have to fire his gun at, with the intent of ending the target's life and perhaps others in the interaction. Thinking that someone who has a gun can provide safety to others in a school setting is an oxymoron. It is a no-win situation. If the officer decides there is too much potential for hurting an innocent, then they would not fire anyway. So the situation would have to be specific and well laid out that they could fire with a clear shot. The odds of that happening are overwhelmingly low. We don't need a person with a gun at the school. Also imagine when a shooting and what shooting another human being does to a person mentally. We have to ask this of officers and military personnel for too long. We need other solutions. Hope Kramer. That's the only one we have.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. And as always, go ahead. Thanks for the comments. We do appreciate getting comments. Always appreciate those, so thanks very much. Let's see, the consent agenda is the next item. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Okay, hearing none, we'll ask for a motion.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, okay. So we'll do a roll call vote. Let's see. Narce,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, so that motion passes. Thank you. All right, we have a number of action items this evening. It looks to me like 11 this evening. So the first one is the supplemental budget resolution. And I believe Eileen Clute will be presenting this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight we have a supplemental budget resolution for you. It has two components in it. One is for the David Hill property purchase when we increased the acreage from 10 acres up to 16 acres. We just finalized and closed it in late May. And so now what we're looking at is increasing our appropriation in our capital projects fund, the facilities acquisition and construction appropriation line item by $800,000. And this is to support that increase in total acreage for that David Hill property purchase. The second part of this supplemental budget resolution is for the unemployment costs. Typically, we spend $25,000 to $35,000 on unemployment costs. We budgeted $150,000 this year. And through the third quarter, we have hit that 150. So this budget is requesting an additional $60,000 to make that fourth quarter payment this year. And most all of it is due to the COVID-19 pandemic, temp time, just the loss of wages for many people that would have been working this last year. So that is the resolution. that is proposed here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Eileen? Okay, hearing none. I'll make a motion that we approve the 2020-2021 supplemental budget resolution 20-21R.
I'll second it. Oh, sorry, Mark. I'll second.
Sorry. Okay, moved and seconded. We'll do a vote on this. I'm a yes. Narce,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Kate.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Odyssey Ware 2020-2022 subscription, and this is with Mr. Parker.
Thank you. So this was the contract that it's software that we utilize for our credit recovery courses. We use it at NAMS, the high school, Create, and Oak Grove. It's 100 K-12 licenses through the year and 50 licenses for the summertime. This time, this is now the correct amount, $75,500 is what we're paying for it. Last time it came in front of you, we had a discrepancy between the cover sheet and the actual quote, but this is the correct price for this.
Okay. Questions or comments for Mr. Parker?
So I'll make a motion to
I can
move.
make a motion. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I move that we approve the 2021-2022 Odyssey Ware renewal for the 2021-2022.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I will be a yes. Kate,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
and Narcy. Narcy?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dave. All right. Item number 3 is a school resource officer memorandum of understanding. And this is, again, presented by Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Chair Everett. First, I want to start this session out by providing some time for Osvaldo to talk about the Latinx outreach sessions we ran on June 7th and June 9th at the high school. I didn't provide him time last time around, and I wanted to make sure that you get to hear from him about what we heard in those sessions. So first, we'll start out with Oz.
Absolutely, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, the board, and thank you, the community, for allowing this opportunity and for just generating such an important debate. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen to kind of show the findings from these meetings. And please excuse my million tabs. You already know me. I'm notorious for having a bunch of them. So I'd like to tell you first that we did a tremendous amount of communication out there, via Remind, emails, dial-in calls to all the Latino families connected to our schools. And, at the first meeting that was held at Neil Armstrong, 10 parents showed up. At the second meeting that we had at Forest Grove High School, we had 5. I had the opportunity to speak with a couple of parents over the phone, and also the opportunity to interact with a member of the community via email, in which I shared the questions that we were going to share with the community. And the reality is that 100% of all participants on the listening sessions approved having the presence of the SRO in our schools under certain guidelines and regulations. So the question was not, should we have the SRO in our building? That was a yes. However, they just didn't want to keep the status quo. They recommended a number of, recommendations to make the interaction with the SRO more effective. So there were about 5 main reasons why they wanted to have the SRO in our schools, especially at the secondary level, middle school, upper elementary, middle school, and high school. The first one was bullying prevention. They felt that, that interaction between the SRO and the students, when the SRO come into classes and talk about what is bullying, they talk about how to report, what kind of impact it could have in the future, what kind of crimes can be committed. They felt that that was important to have an SRO communicating this message. Crime deterrence. I mean, there are a number of parents concerned about a number of things that happen within the school boundaries and around the school boundaries. So they felt that SRO were instrumental in keeping crime away from our schools. Another issue that was highlighted was that, it got clarified that our community have a degree of confusion and is equating SRO with regular law enforcement. Even though they talk to one another, even though there is a relationship between them, they actually appreciated knowing the difference between the SRO and the regular law enforcement in the community. There were statements like, done well, having the SRO could be an asset to the overall educational experience of the students, especially talking about the purpose, the rationale. Why is it that we need SROs in our buildings? They felt that kids needed to know about that. They felt that the why needed to be very well established. And this was, obviously an opinion, not only for the students, but also for the parents. Now, there were some considerations that they said that we needed to work on in order to have an SRO that actually met the needs of our students and our community. They talked about the importance of that person to just not be anybody. This person needed to be a special person who was linguistically competent and culturally responsive, especially addressing the diversity of our community. They wanted the SRO to emphasize prevention and specifically get involved in the educational experience of the students. So rather than being reactive, they wanted to be proactive, to have a more friendly approach, be out there, have a smile, interact with the students. They really didn't like the idea of that person wearing a uniform. There was a debate, 60% to 40% of the parents saying, no, I don't want them to have firearms. And others, yes, it is important for them to wear one in case of a crisis. So that we really didn't get a unanimous agreement. The community was divided on the actual issue of wearing a weapon. There was confusion in the community, and they feel that needs to be clarified that the truancy officer is not the SRO. So the Hispanic community are equating these two as the same, and that brings a degree of confusion. They talked about eliminating the culture of fear, and that means that a lot of parents and a lot of students, if they are not provided with basic background on what an SRO needs to do, they are assuming the SRO is coming to get them because they either have an immigration status that is not favorable or because they are assumed to be criminals. So that's a belief that some parents have. There were some comments, some parents said that students needed to be supported so that they could learn how to interact with law enforcement, because there is a degree of respect, there is a degree of communication that needs to be established. These are people who are representing an important sector of society. they talked about ongoing professional development, specifically equity trainings. So they're thinking about SRO, more members of the schools than the law enforcement. They want this SRO to be a part of the same ongoing professional development that teachers go through so that they could be culturally responsive, so that they understand the complex issues with equity. So they would like to see that. And in addition, a little bit of pedagogy. I mean, like how to interact with students of this age as opposed to interacting with adults that are committing crimes in the community. So they were concerned about that too. Like, do they have the training to really do these things? Some parents were talking about, okay, can we have other options? Can we still have this person like more on the role of a campus monitor? Obviously, because some of the parents do not understand the intricacies of our educational system, because we already have campus monitors in many schools. So they thought that that person was non-existent. And then the SRO was probably had the opportunity to take that role. So that's kind of, what the parents said. So obviously I didn't walk into any of these conversations with a preconceived idea. I didn't walk into these conversations trying to tell the parents what to write. I just provided an opportunity for them to voice their opinion, and then for me to lead them to the website in Thought Exchange, where they could go and write their own opinions. However, I took notes as they were debating. I had instructional assistants from different buildings taking notes on what the parents were saying, and that's how I collected this data. I mean, I do acknowledge that there are a number of individuals in the community who have not had a good experience with an officer or an SRO. But I do have to tell you that as a person of color, and this is just my own opinion, having an SRO is something that the majority of the Latin community that I am aware of, they overwhelmingly support. We're not talking about police officers in the streets interacting with the community. There are a number of issues with that. I'm referring specifically about having an SRO in the schools taking care of the safety and security of our children. So that's kind of what I collected. And I'm gonna, turn it over to our superintendent to move forward with this conversation.
And I'm gonna we'll open at the end of this for some questions, because I'm sure there will be some, but I wanted to take a moment and kind of sum up what I believe we've heard and why I'm recommending that we approve this contract. You were sent, I think last week and a half ago, kind of the sum up of all the data. So, we went out, we ran thought exchanges with our students, our staff, and our parents. In these thought exchange exercise, students and parents and staff add their ideas and their thoughts, and then they begin to rate other people's thoughts. And the highest rating thoughts, the software begins to compile. Students were notified every day by the administration through email, through the announcements, through remind messages. Over 10 times, kids were prompted to put in their thoughts. My summary of kind of the top ranked thoughts are: one, students don't know why the officer is there. They want to know what the purpose of this is. The second one was they want them to interact more and be more welcoming. The third highest rated thought was the SRO is there in case of emergency. The fourth was we need to change the uniform to a more casual dress. The fifth was the SRO should not be involved in school discipline and only involved if the student has potentially broken the law. The sixth highest rated thought for all students was not every child feels safe with an SRO. And then the seventh was when students are having an emotional or mental health challenges, they should be directed towards a counselor. So that's what our own students who filled out these thought exchanges are telling us. I'm sure there's some things that I've left out, but you've had, I mean, we've sent you the data, you've had time to look at what our parents and what our kids are saying. I know you've received letters of support, and I know you've received letters not in support of the SRO. So you don't need to take my word on this. We deeply understand the issues surrounding having the SRO. Again, I think our kids did a very good job of outlining what those issues are. I've heard from the community. I also hear from students who responded to our that they still want the SRO, but with some changes. So with all of this, I want the board to know why I'm recommending you approve this contract. In our school district, we interact with the police. We have a 1,900 student high school, an 1,800 plus student middle school, 6 other elementary schools. We interact with the police often, monthly, weekly, even daily at different times during the school year. We interact with them around all sorts of issues. This could be welfare checks. This could be child abuse, sex abuse, runaways. It could be suicidal ideation, criminal activity, domestic violence. There's all sorts of things that causes the school district to reach out to the police. So whether you approve this contract or not, that's still going to happen. That's part of what we have to do in our school district. Many of those events are our students are the victims. They're not perpetrators, they are victims of these crimes. So we have a choice. We can work with someone who we know, who knows our students, who knows our families, or we call the non-emergency line and we get whoever comes who's on duty that day. That's the central issue for me here. I want someone who's trained by our staff as well as the Forest Grove Police Department, who knows our families, who's worked with our families. Look, I have a decade of experience as a secondary assistant principal and principal. I also have another decade as a central office administrator. I have an understanding of what the SRO does for us, and it goes far beyond them hanging out at lunch or during passing. The SRO is a liaison between the police department and the school district. They are just about every report that comes to the police that involves a student goes through the SRO. If there's a runaway, I call the SRO. That's my first call. Any of our administrators when they have these things. If there's a welfare check, we call the SRO. It's important to have somebody who knows us and knows our families. We've heard from our kids, our students, and they have concerns. They talked about purpose and again the uniform and kind of how welcoming the SRO was. Those are all things that they wanted to see. We also know, because I presented it to you, which is we broke down from our Latinx students' viewpoint what their highest rated thoughts were. And these are their highest rated thoughts. The highest rated thought by our Latinx students was, I believe that students' mental and emotional well-being should be directed towards a counselor instead of an SRO. I agree. That's why we've invested over $2 million in student success coaches and counselors and multi-tiered systems of support, because we do want those types of situations to go towards counselors. Their second highest rated thought, a student should have immediate protection if asked. Their third rated, I can understand why they are reserved in their interaction, but I think they should talk to students a bit more. I can their fourth rated thought from our Latinx students, I don't believe that school resource officers should act as they would on patrol. They should build positive relationships with students and staff. The fifth rated Latinx thought was, I think having one is both necessary but also unnecessary. I think there should always be one, but I think they need to be less intimidating with what they wear and make it more comfortable for students. The sixth, when there were more, but the sixth one was, the potential harm that might be inflicted outweighs the potential good. Police aren't trained enough to handle mental health calls or calls with disabled people. And I would say I agree with that. We would be turning that over again to our counselors, our student success coaches, our care coordinators. So I'm coming back to the, this is why, look, our Latinx parents came, we had 10 in the first and 5 in the second. That's not a lot of representation, but I will tell you that they took the time to show up, to express their opinion. So I think that says something about our Latinx parents. So why I'm recommending that you approve this contract. Yes, we have things to work on. I think I've outlined those in the MOU. We've got purpose, goals written out into the MOU. We've got the connection with students. We've got they're not going to be, and again, these are all things that we'll work with the high school to make sure that we're doing correctly. They're not going to be involved with school discipline. That isn't their point. That's not what we need them to do. They're going to be more casual in the dress, so they'll do a polo instead of like a tactical vest. We'll be keeping data. So written in the MOU is a set of things that we need them to keep. We'll go back out to the students, the staff, and the community in May, and then we'll bring that information to you next June so we can look at this and say, okay, how is this running? Did it serve a purpose for us? What we've added to this MOU, I think, answers most of the issues. I really can't think of anything more that I would add to this MOU, because of, if you're at the point after looking at this MOU at saying, I don't think we should, I don't want to have that SRO, then we should probably not approve the contract, because there's really nothing else that I can put into that that's going to solve all the problems. The problem, again, the thing I want to end with is still, we're going to be interacting with the police. I think it's important that it's a person we know, who knows us, and is trained, and we're working with, rather than just calling the non-emergency line. So that's why I'm here, and I'm recommending. I mean, up to this point, I've been fairly neutral and not telling you how I feel about this, but that's where I'm at with this. Now, you will vote, and I will make whatever this body decides. I will make it work. But I just wanted you to know a little bit more about why I think it's important. And I think, let me look at my notes here. Oz and I think we can take any questions that you might have.
Well, I have a question. So does this SRO go to every school, or do other police officers go to other schools besides the high school?
So it depends, Kate. For the most part, the SRO is stationed at the middle school and the high school. But let's say that I had a worry about a student. Maybe there's a child welfare check. Our principals would call the SRO, and then the SRO would interact with it. They may send the SRO may get on the radio and send somebody else over there. But our first contact most of the time would be back through the SRO. But it depends.
Yeah.
Maybe it was in the data that you gave, which I appreciate both of you presenting. What is the weekly schedule for the SRO at the high school? How often is that SRO at the high school on a weekly basis?
Most days. I don't have we'll work out with the police department. We'll work out what that schedule is. But for the most part, she's at the high school unless she's got training. And they've had some occurrences in the past where she was pulled off of the school. Again, we'll work with the city. That's not what we want to have happen here. And I know everyone's concerned about that, but that has happened in the past.
Yeah, I guess, and I related this to you, and I liked, I think, the valuable comments by the parents and the students. And again, I'm going to say I would like to do a pause, because I like those recommendations by the parents and the students, that the police department start putting in an action plan on how are they going to do it and what are they going to do, and give them some time to do it. And maybe we go with a campus monitor. The other thing is that at Forest Grove, we're not dealing with the Portland Metropolitan Police. We're probably dealing with 10 police officers, which every administrator has probably interfaced with in one way or another. And I agree that sometimes, you know, people have different skills and some are better and some are not. But I originally I was totally in support of this, but what's happened there over the last year has made me feel like we need to have a pause and have the police department really look at some issues. So I respect Brad and I respect Mark and you, Dave. I really respect it, but I also have to respect that things have changed in the last year, and I want to move a little bit more cautious. So, you know, generally I agree most of the time with you guys, but, you know, I am an adult and I can have a different opinion occasionally.
Thank you, Kate. What I would, just a couple of things. One is that the city, the reason we're bringing this forward, because I know we were asked by a community group to pause. We need to make a decision here because the city needs to plan and we need to plan. So I just wanted you to understand why I'm bringing the contract, because either we voted up or we voted down, but both organizations need to plan and move forward. So that's why I'm asking for the vote. And then the second thing I would let you know is the SRO is not a campus monitor. We having more campus monitors would be great, but that isn't the function. So if we don't do this, I wouldn't replace it with a campus monitor because that's not the function that they have in the school district. I need someone who's a police officer that when we're interacting, they have the power and the licensing to be a police officer, to do the welfare check, to do those pieces. So that's just wanted to explain where that's coming from. Brad, I think you're.
So David, we already have a campus monitor at the high school, correct?
Yeah, there's two.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're saying is that the SRO serves a different role than the campus monitor in most situations. So I'm going to say that over my 35 years working with Forest Grove High School, mainly as a teacher and administrator, that we've had some great SROs through there. We've even hired like 2 or 3 of them after they've retired. And I think that the person that we have right now, I've had contact with her. She's really strong also. So I'm in full support of the SRO, and I respect Kate's opinion most times. So I would recommend the SRO, and it's just been, especially as a school administrator in situations that were tough. It was nice to have somebody who knew the kids, especially the kids that I work with, kids with disabilities. So I'm in full support of the SRO, and I just want to go on record and making that comment. So.
Val.
Oh, is it Val? Okay.
Yes. Thank you. So due to recent events in the community, I have trust issues with the Forest Grove Police Department. And if I don't trust the Forest Grove Police Department, then I honestly don't want to hire somebody to have them around our students and in our schools. One of Dave's main points is that, then we would have the one officer that we know. Well, that's what the problem is within this whole community, is that all police officers should interact with all community members the same, adequately and fairly. And that's not what's happening. And we shouldn't have to hire an SRO just to make sure that's going to happen at our schools. I think we need to say to the police station, no, we're not accepting that anymore. So that's kind of where I am. I just don't trust them. And if I don't trust you, I don't really want you in our schools.
Thank you.
Arce, did you have any questions?
I do. I have some questions and comments. Thank you for sharing your input. You know, I took quite a bit of time going through at least 2-3 times with the draft of the MOU. And there's some conflicting information, or there's just some conflict. I shouldn't say conflict. There's some missteps that are taking place that doesn't quite convince me that we need to just approve the contract and go with it. There's too many unknowns, and I'm talking more about processes and procedures and also not connecting the dots. I know that we have talked about SROs off and on throughout the year, but I take responsibility also as a board member that I was not more forthcoming from the beginning and saying, let's get a task force going. Let's figure out what models there are nationwide. The optics also of our current Forest Grove Police Department are not really in our favor. I do serve on the CPAC as a board member representative there. And from my opinion, as a member of the board and the CPAC, as your representatives and for the district, we're from a spectrum of understanding our communities, our poor communities, our migrant communities, our women. We're not there yet. So it does concern me that we have an SRO, or that we would have an SRO that professional development training is not quite there yet. I wish that the SROs and that every police department, every police officer in general would actually already come trained, he, she, or they, with those particular skills that we need. It does concern me that according to the draft of the MOU, we would be providing that professional development for them, according to all of the professional developments here that, and which is great, but that really should be supplemental. And that overall just, it's concerning to me. The other thing too is that I'm not sure we're connecting the dots even with the MOU. And what I mean by that is, Dave and many work really hard to be able to get the additional funding, the FTE for the counselors and the coaches and, all of that. I'm not seeing connecting the dots, all of that to the MOU with the SROs. There's just no connection. It's very silo. And I'm still unclear about it. I did not have a chance to look at our student parent handbook to see if actually the SRO definitions are there of what they do or don't do. Osvaldo might know more about that. I don't know, but that's also concerning to me. I feel like that it's sloppy. It's a little sloppy right now, the MOU. It's not quite a solid document, and it's not sloppy because we're being sloppy or anything. It's just, I don't think we've taken the time to really look at the SRO functions with really best practices. I hear what you're saying, Dave, about the need to call a police officer. And that was a big red flag for me. Like, let's call a police officer right away. Where is the conversation going to take place with that bridge or that middle person? That additional counselor we're going to hire, that whatever the titles are, have we really thought about what those job descriptions are going to be able to align with the potential SRO or whatever we call this particular position? So I'm not seeing a connection there, at least not intentionally. I did read, I could have missed it. I do understand that our children are victims of many crimes within their home and out in the community. But it does concern me just even some of the language about, for example, SRO's program also seek to reduce violent crimes committed by and against youth. I don't have the data to even know what that is. I have no clue what that is. I don't know if we have 20 sexual cases, if there's 2 rapes, if I don't have the data. At least I haven't picked it up. Maybe I missed it again. So I'm concerned about that there are some good things in the draft of the MOU. For example, on page 3, talks about the SRO programs is designed to fill 3 overall roles. Talks about fostering positive school climate, education, law enforcement, crime prevention. This MOU does not quite, from the beginning, talk about having an equity lens. And when I say equity lens, I'm talking in all aspects of equity lens. Our children with disabilities, bilingual, you name it, all types of equity that we can think about. Page 3, just, it's the one that I was like, oh, no. And let me tell you why. It says SROs should meet the following general criteria. Experience as a police officer and committed to student and community well-being. I get that, I understand it. SROs must have a minimum of 3 years experience as a patrol officer, be off probationary status, be 21 years of age and have experience with juvenile justice, child adolescent development in psychology and creating a positive school climate. That's the experience that we're asking that we want. When you move down to bullet number 3, it says preference. I've hired enough people in my 30 years career. I know what preference means. Unless it means something different at the school district, school preferences says shall be given to candidates that are ethnically, linguistically, culturally diverse, so forth and so on, have college or degree coursework, are in education. So it's preference. It's not required. That's a big flag to me. When we're already putting this information out there, that's the experience that we want. We're not putting that whole equity and diversity and the rights for our students up at front. It's a preference. It's like when we say let's hire a teacher, preference to be bilingual or not. Maybe, maybe not. So this doesn't give me a warranty that that's the commitment that they're doing. So that was a big it just made me concerned. The other, again, and I can go through, I have a lot of notes in all of these pages, but the restorative justice is mentioned, but I'm not exactly who's going to do that. Who's the designee? I mean, Dr. Parker, you're ultimately responsible, but who exactly is a designee at the school? And how does the rest of the staff, the counselors and the coaches and all that, who's going to be responsible for this particular person and for accountability? I also saw that and correct me if I'm wrong, that this would be a 3-year contract and that we would have reports bi-yearly. So I wish that we would have spent a lot more time in the draft of what our expectations are. And I don't feel, based on the MOU and the data and the information, that we've done justice to what we want that SRO to do. Whether it's an SRO title or it's a different title, I don't know yet, because I'm still in that thinking mode. And I'm not saying that an SRO can do this work, but I'm concerned that our police department, our police here at Forest Grove has not received the training. And I can say that with a different hat. A specific university has been providing that training out of my office, and we're talking the ABC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
Okay. Respectfully, I have to disagree with some things here. The PD laid out in that session, we added in a bunch of the district level trainings because we wanted to make sure that the police officer understood all of the things that we're doing. So again, our student services would be, if it's on there, then we had somebody who's going to provide that training. Safety care, the trauma-informed practices will be done by our student services group. So all of that, the fact that the beginning of it is a basic nationally recognized training class for police officers working in a school environment at Forest Grove PD expense. I do understand what you're saying there, but I have to tell you, we put a lot of work into this, and this is a good contract. And where I'm at is both organizations have to move forward. And if you're not feeling this, I get it. Then we need to vote this, and then we'll deal with the aftermath. Again, the running of the school is handled by school employees. So this isn't going to impact our ability to run school. It's just going to change the way in which and again, I don't always call the police for every single thing. I'm not sure I explained myself very well there, but there are certain things that I absolutely, and we're working through all of the way that the new counselors are going to be interacting. All of that's coming out in the fall. Cassie Kenny, the Director of Behavioral Health and Wellness, is working with our counselors and our folks to figure out all of those pieces out. But again, I do understand the issues here, and I think I've put together a plan that meets those. And if you don't feel that I've done that, then I would say we need to say no to the contract, and I'll move forward, and we can. But either way, the city needs to know whether or not they're paying for an officer at the school or not, and we need to provide them that info.
Dave, I want to add something that I was talking to I think it might have been the chief or one of his staff that is part of the CPAC. So here's also an opportunity I'm just going to throw out there. The city council meetings and the school board meet at the same time. And I just feel like we haven't had, or at least I don't feel like we have had a good working relationship with the city council. And I know most of them, but I don't think that we have met or correlated and see what their needs are as well. What do they think? So I'm just kind of putting that out there as well, as maybe in the future, it's a goal for the future of having the Forest Grove School Board meetings and the city council meet at a different time, whether it's them or it's us. But we both have the same idea, and it's the person that provides support and chairs the city council and also for the chief of police. And that just came up prior to the CPAC meeting that we had about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. So it's an observation.
I just want to add real quick that, Dave, I appreciate your work on this, and I'm not unhappy with your work on this. I just want to make it clear that I do not trust the Forest Grove Police Department. This has nothing to do with the district. It has to do with my faith in them.
So maybe I'm the last one to speak on this evening before we move forward in some way here. But I respect everybody's opinion on this, and I think all the board members have been, well spoken about this for their various reasons, sort of alluding to where they are on this issue, which is fine. Probably for me, I've been an administrator at a vice principal that did all the discipline and all student management at 1,300 student high school, Milwaukee, Oregon, for the start of my career, and then a high school principal closer. And I've seen school resource officers been tremendous assets to the school for just really, when Dave talked about it before we spoke, for many of the reasons that Dave outlined there, really helping students and helping schools. And so, I'm in support of this, and I think it's good for the school and good for the school building and good for the kids. But I do think exactly what Dave has said we need to do tonight, which is we need to vote on this. And so I think it's come to a point where we have a motion, and then we vote, and we see whether what the result of the vote is. And so I'd like to see if somebody would make a motion for the
Can I make one more comment, Mark?
Okay, go ahead.
You know, one of the things about us as a school board, we represent the community and we represent the information that the district has gathered in terms of how they feel about an SRO. We all bring our experiences to the table, and we've had discussions about those experiences. But I think for me, I feel like I'm representing the information that was presented to us by the district and Dave, and all the work that they've done over the last, 3 or 4 months. And it's been a lot. It's been more, it's amazing the amount of information that they've brought to us. So whether I agree that we need to make a decision right now and make that, but I just want to make sure that we all understand that we represent the people that we were voted in to do the job, and the information that was brought to us over the last 3 or 4 months is an important information, no matter how we feel about the situation. So that's my comment.
I'll just point out that we also received other community feedback as well.
Yeah. That's true. So I'll make.
So Mark, you want me to make the motion?
Go ahead, Val.
Okay, I move that the board approves the school resource officer memorandum of understanding with the city of Forest Grove as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, so we'll do a roll call vote. I'm a yes, and Marcy.
No,
Okay. Let's see, Valerie.
No.
Okay. Kate
No,
and Brad.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion does not pass, and that will conclude this action item for this evening. Thank you.
So I'll get moving on organizing kind of where we go from here, and then I'll come back and kind of report kind of how we'll move forward next year.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Okay, the next action item is the Northwest Regional Education Service District Zone 2 candidate appointment. And I think you have maybe just a few comments on this.
Yeah. VSD had a resignation, so they're trying to fill position 2. There's 2 candidates, Doug Doherty and Eliza Force Knight. They put information in there, and we just need to vote and appoint one of them as the new board member.
Okay. So
I guess if, I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to discuss it or not, but if I was ready to make a motion, or if you're ready for me to make a motion, would I make a motion with the person that I would be suggesting? Kathy, do you know how that works?
Yes, if you want to make a motion for either person, you can do that, and then the rest of you can vote on it.
Okay, does anybody want to discuss it? No? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion.
Valerie,
Oh,
I don't know if I was missing something from the documents or the report, but was there like a narrative on each of these candidates, or is it
Yes,
just,
it was in the packet.
it wasn't the
yeah,
packet?
yeah.
Yes.
All right.
yeah. One of them had not really any information
Correct.
with their application, and then one of them added a little bit more and had a little bit more information to give to us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant. It's just very limited. So I just wanted to know if there was anything else. So it's pretty limited. All right. Thank you.
You want to make a motion, Val?
Sure.
Okay.
I move that we fill the vacant position in Zone 2 for Northwest RESD Board of Directors by Doug Doherty.
I'll second that. We'll do a roll call vote unless somebody has any comments before we vote. Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Narce?
Yes.
Okay, Valerie? Valerie?
Yes.
Okay, Brad?
Yes.
Kate?
yes,
And I'm a yes as well. So that motion passes. So Doug Doherty. Thank you. Let's see. Item 5, orchestra and mariachi band materials and instrument purchase. And this is, it looks like Angela Graves. this evening. Is Angela? let's see.
Dave, this might be you.
Is this me?
This is Angela.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is,
And there's like a million distractions here.
okay. All right.
Anyway, Mariachi. So you have in your packet that we have a proposal for you for Mariachi. And did you guys get the email today that we had an amendment to that?
Yes.
Okay, so over the weekend, we're able to get an additional quote for a harp purchase. So it'll actually be cheaper than our original recommendation. So it's going to be a little under 60,000 right now. And that is for mariachi and orchestra instruments and mariachi uniforms. So the different quote was for cheaper harps that will get there on time for the camp to actually happen. Any questions on that?
I would just like to make a comment. I am just astounded by how many musical instruments we're getting. I mean, this is just phenomenal. Thank you, thank you.
It is phenomenal. And really, it's our music teachers that have gotten all these quotes. They have been doing that while teaching full time. So the kudos goes to them.
Well, thank you from the board. That it's just astounding.
Absolutely.
Angela, this is Narce. I have a question. It's just to see if there's opportunities for these. In the past, the mariachis from other school districts have been, for example, contracted for fundraising for additional outfits or instruments. Is that something in the plan for the mariachi that would be available for county or performances, etc.?
That our mariachi band can do performances for fundraisers?
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have new mariachi outfits for them. Leslie Nunez, who is our orchestra and mariachi teacher, says there is not a single other mariachi that has their own harps like this. This will be the best in the state of Oregon.
And Narce, they already do traveling and play at different events around the city and even in other places. They were down in Texas, I think 2 years ago, playing.
And they will be performing also, and I'll make sure to get those dates for you guys so you can see the end of every single one of our musical camps. There's going to be a performance. And we also have guest artists who are going to come in and practice with the kids, do Q&A with the kids. These are professional musicians, and they'll be our guest artist, and then they will perform at the concert as well and write original pieces for the kids.
Angela, I'm just, it's probably more of a side note is my other job, we're always looking for providing opportunities locally for our students or others, consultants. So just, I know at Pacific University probably would love to have performance and then be able to compensate the students for something like that. So would I talk to you about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that Leslie is probably listening at home on the webinar. And so I'm sure she'll be excited after this.
Okay, thank you. It probably won't be me, it'll be somebody else that I'll refer to.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Angela?
I can make a motion for you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Val.
Okay, I move that we approve the purchase request for instruments and uniforms in the sum of $59,378.50.
Second,
Okay, moved and seconded. So we'll do a roll call vote. Narce,
Yes.
Valerie? Valerie?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Brad?
Yes.
Kate?
yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you. And I think I'm up
You're
next.
here for the next one too. Okay, go ahead.
Next
Go
one
ahead.
more instruments.
Yeah.
And this is for additional band interest instruments. So we've already come to you for about 100,000, a little bit less, I think, in band instruments for 3 band camps that we have going on this summer: jazz band, regular band, and marching band. And so we asked Stuart to, our band teacher, to make a list in priority order of the instruments he needed for his bands. And so we have the money for our grant to spend another additional 50,000 in instruments. So we're coming to you with a little tiny bit over $50,000 in additional band instruments that you have in your packet. Are there any questions about that?
Well, my only question, Angela, and I think maybe I asked it last time, is, we're getting all the instruments. I don't know, and maybe the band director doesn't know where they're going yet, but
They'll be shared between the middle school and the high school.
Okay.
And it's about 2/3 high school,
Okay.
1/3 middle school.
Okay.
I have one question. Where are we going to store these after the fact?
A really good question, Kate. I'm going to ask Stuart that question.
Yeah, that's a lot of instruments.
The thing is, we're replacing a lot of instruments. So there's instruments that are 40 years old that we've had to repair and repair and repair. So basically, we're going to replace a ton of instruments. So I don't know that we're going to need a ton of additional storage. We'll probably pass those instruments down to, Tom McCall.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll move that we approve the band instruments additional purchase for grades 5 through 12.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. I'm a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
And Narce?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That passes, Angela. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item is the superintendent contract. Let me get to it here. Lots of pages of band instruments here. So this is in accordance with policy CBC superintendent's contract and benefits. The terms and conditions are included in a written contract that meets the requirements of state law and is mutually acceptable to the board and superintendent. The only change to the current contract is 5 additional vacation days. There are no COLA or monetary changes. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the superintendent contract?
I move we approve the superintendent's contract as written.
Okay.
I second.
Moved and seconded, okay. A roll call vote. Narce?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you, that motion passes. The next item, number 8, is the assistant superintendent contract. I think Dave's got that one.
It's the exact same piece. The only change is John's partway through a 3-year contract. Therefore, it's an amendment instead of mine was a whole new contract. There's no change in his pay, no change in the insurance. They're listed there because it's his contract in the amendment that makes up the whole thing. So the only real change is, again, taking vacation days from 20 to 25. And just so you know, I plan on taking every one of those vacation days, and then working with our folks, with John, we have every intention to make sure that we're utilizing the vacation properly.
Which I think is great. So it's good that you're taking the vacation days. Okay. I'll move that we approve the assistant superintendent contract addendum as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call vote. I am a yes. Kate?
I'm a yes.
Brad Bafero?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
And Narce?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that passes. Item 9, elect board chair for the 2021-2022 school year. So normally we do this in July, but we're doing this a little bit early and this year, and it'll avoid maybe a meeting right after the 4th of July, which we normally have. So pretty simple. We nominate and person accepts, and we do a vote. So at this point, I'd like to nominate Kate Grandusky as the board chair for the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. And Kate, you're fine with that?
Yes,
Okay, okay. All right, so we'll do a roll call vote. I'm a yes. Brad,
Yes.
Kate,
yes,
Valerie,
Yes.
and Narcy.
Yes.
Okay, great. Congratulations, Kate. And
I'd
then-
just like to say one thing. We really, really appreciate your 2 years as chair, and especially the last year. God love you. You did a great, great job. Thank
well,
you.
thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah. It was a
I-
tough year, Zoom and trying to keep the documents, and yeah, so and I'm sure the board feels the same way. You were outstanding.
Well, thank you very much. It was a little bit of learning on your feet here, so so thank you. Let's see, now comes the election for the board vice chair for the 2021-2022 school year. And same procedure, is there a nomination for the vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Narcy.
Okay, Arce, you would accept that?
I do.
Okay, great. And we'll take a vote.
I'll second that then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, thanks, Val. So I'm a yes. Kate,
Yes,
Brad?
Yes.
Val
Yes.
and Narcy.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Congratulations to both of you. Let's see, item 11 is the school board meeting calendar. Let me get to that. Okay, the school board meeting calendar. Attached, please find the proposed 2021-2022 school board meeting calendar. Please notice we have tentatively scheduled a joint meeting with the cities of Forest Grove and Cornelius in October, as we did 2 years ago. Superintendent Parker will meet in the next few months with Forest Grove City Manager Jesse Vander Zanden and Cornelius City Manager Rob Drake to discuss time, topics, locations, etc. So the recommendation is that the board review the calendar and approve or revise as needed. So,
Mark, I can't do July 19th. So I can do, I have a conflict. So I can do the 2nd or the 4th date in July or another day, but I'm not available on the 19th.
so Kathy, is that something that we can just move?
Yeah, you haven't approved it yet, so you can
We'll just
change
move
it.
I don't know. I don't have should I look at a calendar and we can,
Let me-
Make that
I'll
adjustment.
look. I'm gonna look just a second. Let me,
I was gonna say, could we just get it off the calendar and then decide at a later date when we do it?
I
no,
don't
we
think
need to set one because we're gonna have hires and stuff that we need to get done. So they're gonna need to know.
Narcy can step in and be chair during that time.
Yeah, the 19th will only be specific things that, like for hiring, there won't be presentations, there won't be anything other than if there's an action item, say we need to make a purchase or we need to hire personnel. That's why I put it in there because it's hard if we wait till August for new people coming on board.
So if we leave it the way it is and have Narcy step in and just handle that, then we can move forward with what we have.
Well, we have to be sworn in. We're not sworn in by then.
Right. The other thing we could do is I put on there, since it's just, for purposes of hiring and stuff, we could do it as a Zoom meeting, if that makes a difference.
Say that again, Kathy?
We could do it as a Zoom meeting instead of an in-person meeting, if that makes a difference.
Yeah, I could do that. I could just have my computer with me.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you guys think? And then you go back to in-person in August, hopefully.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah, I think I could do that.
What about August 5th for a retreat? That was the other thing. We just kind of looked for a date and put that in there.
Okay, I'll be gone that week, so I won't be available.
Okay. We could make that one to be determined, and then you guys can all send me a calendar, what works for you, and we can add that meeting on the July 19th meeting if we want to. What do you think, Dave?
I think that'd be fine. I think it's a good time for us to come back together again as we start this new year in person to have a retreat together.
Mhm.
Kathy, is a retreat all day?
No, we usually do it like from 9 to 1 and have lunch in between, you know, we do like a potluck kind of a thing, or we could do it in the afternoon, whatever works best for everybody's schedule. It's nothing fancy.
So I think we leave the retreat as to be determined, right? And we
Yeah.
Okay, we can change that definitely.
We'll leave the 19th on there and probably do it virtual. Are there any other dates that people are looking at? Well, probably not. I mean, the others
Are you talking for the retreat?
The retreat is to be determined.
Okay.
But the July 19th meeting will hold either, well, probably virtual, since Kate said she can attend it virtual.
Okay.
Can we do the swearing in virtual? Is it?
You can.
Okay, all right, good.
Ready for a motion?
Yep,
So I move that we accept the 2021-22 school board meeting calendar as presented with the changes for the retreat.
right.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll vote on that. I'm a yes. Kate,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
and Narcy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Let's see, future board items and board discussion. I don't know if anybody has any comments here before there's some other things. Let's see. We have some information items here. Also, at the end of the packet, we have something prepared by Toby O'Hanley. It's a restraint and seclusion report. That's information in the packet. We have a create review from John O'Neill. I think John spoke about the create review last time, but that's the description. And then Forest Grove Community School annual review. I think he spoke about that last time as well. So I think with that, we're at the end of the items for this evening. And I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting here and wish everybody a cool, hopefully a cooler evening and cooler next few days, and maybe a little bit of a break here. So, so good evening, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. Thanks.